The Square Ball Podcast.
Hello there, welcome to the show. You'll find this episode in your podcast app if you want to listen, and if you want to watch, it is on YouTube as well. Dan here with Michael and with Chris Mack as we chat about a bit of Pat chat, because Patrick Bamford is leaving Leeds United. It is transfer deadline day as we record. We've got a bit of a transfer deadline special. We're going to round it up with Berrin Cross on the West Stand, so we're moving the shows around a little bit this week. So we're going to be chatting to Berrin with the show that's going to come out on Tuesday. In the meantime, we thought, didn't we, given the impact that Pat Bamford has had on Leeds over the last few years, that it probably warranted a separate standalone little chat. So I suppose that's the first question.
Well, the first question is where can you get wills, probate and conveyancing with a discount?
I'd actually just remembered just before you said that, but now you've made me look bad. So
it's all right. I don't mind doing that
again.
Levi Solicitors.
Yeah, the show is brought to you with Levi Solicitors. There is a 10% discount on their full range of services, which include Michael, wills, probate, conveyancing, and what's your big favourite this time?
Care home fees.
Right. Is that because they told us to plug that?
That's exactly why, yeah.
Yeah. What sort of help can you get with care home fees? Because it's a confusing minefield type thing, and they know how it works.
Basically, yeah. You might be entitled to some help, but you might need to rearrange things a bit to get it.
Like your furniture?
Speak to them.
Is that what you mean? You move your furniture around?
Listen, I'm not an expert. They are. Yeah.
That's a big confession.
Well, I'm concentrating on the big three.
LeviSolicitors.co.uk/the square ball. Full details and terms on the website. Pat, yeah. So why talk about Pat separately? I suppose is the first question.
Because he's been here forever.
He has. He's been an interesting, often enigmatic part of Leeds for the last 7 years.
And it warrants, because he's a Bielsa player and they are rapidly running out at Leeds. There's only, Pascal and Melier left at the time of recording?
You see, I did this as well at the weekend. Then I was like, Jack Harrison was there throughout the whole thing. But weirdly, because he didn't belong to us this at the start, and then he left for a bit in the middle, sort of makes me feel like he's not done his time in the same way as Pat has, whereas Bamford has been here through every grim moment of it.
Yeah. So I agree. He does. I think he warrants a separate chat because there will be people pleased to see him go, I've no doubt, or feel that it's time that he does, and I kind of understand that feeling, but I'm also sad about it because it feels like the end of something, because it is. It's the end of another little part of that Bielsa world that was so rich for us, wasn't it?
Yeah, the entire time that Bamford was there, I think, especially the last couple of years, a lot of people, and I think you've mentioned it before, Dan, have said we'll look back on him differently after he leaves. Like, he might be frustrating at the time, but in 10, 20 years' time, people will look back and see the highlights of him scoring all those goals and maybe not see the highlight of the miss against Leicester or several other missed penalties and all that sort of thing. But I also think that's true of a lot of Leeds strikers. I think if you even take the best Leeds striker of the modern era, Mark Viduka, and sit 6 Leeds fans from that time down, sit them down and ask them what they think of Mark Viduka, I don't think you would get the same answer from all 6 of them.
Because he was brilliant, was Mark Viduka. Yeah. I can remember watching him and thinking, you are so, so good. And yet there was still quite a lot of, abuse is not the right word, but, there were always disgruntled shouts about, get moving or whatever. And, whatever he wasn't doing was what people wanted him to do, I suppose.
It's been the same since, Lee Chapman was just before my time, so it'd be interesting to know from you, Dan, if people were annoyed at him because scored absolutely loads of goals for us, but was a bit of a donkey in some respects as well.
I think people just, with Chapman though, because he scored so many, people kind of understood his limitations, and there was a clear direction of travel and a lot of momentum with that. And whilst it was anxious trying to get promoted and all that, so much of what followed was, and because Chapman had scored loads of goals in that promotion season when he came in after he replaced Ian Baird, that I don't think he ever suffered the same level of scrutiny, particularly because it came so hot on the heels of so many kind of really mediocre strikers in the mid to late 80s. We just went on this really quick upward trajectory with Chapman at the apex of this, and it worked. And it worked until it didn't work. But yeah, he never, I don't think, was ever subject to the same. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't think he was ever subject to the same levels of criticism. Or maybe it's just a more modern phenomenon with the amount of analysis and social media and stuff. I don't know.
Because I come into Leeds with Brian Deane being the big summer signing and high expectations, and he did really well for us, Brian Deane, but I remember people complaining that he didn't score as many goals as he should have done.
Do you know what? That is a really good point. I hadn't thought that. That was possibly the origin of this type of discussion around the centre forward because he was touted basically as the replacement for Lee Chapman, and he didn't quite live up to the expectation.
A better footballer than Chapman, undoubtedly, ended up playing out wide and stuff. But people were basically annoyed he didn't score as many goals as we thought he might for that money. And then you go from him, you go into Yeboah, who everyone loved for a bit, but then by the time he leaves, he's not in shape. He's falling out with people. You go into Hasselbank and he sulks and he dives, and we don't really like him anymore. And he's left for the money. And then you're into like Viduka, who's too fat and doesn't run enough and doesn't try, and you're into Becchio, who doesn't try enough. Beckford, who doesn't run enough and doesn't try and tried to get a move away. And Becchio, who's got shit first touch. And there's always something about every striker, isn't there?
Yeah.
But actually now that list of players, you just think, oh yeah, all scored some really good goals, all really good servants. Like the Beckford thing, he's now almost like Mr. Leeds United, isn't he, on TV? He tried his best to leave in that January.
He handed in a transfer request, which is it's the same as what I was saying about Viduka. You would sit people down from the League One era and talk about Beckford, and they would all probably say something different about him. But like you obviously can't compare Beckford and Viduka or Beckford and Bamford or Bamford and Viduka. And I think they're all very different times and eras and players in their own merit. But personally, I think Bamford will always have a place in my heart, not just because of the promotion, but he just scored lots of really good goals. He missed loads of chances, but if he didn't miss those chances, he wouldn't be playing for Leeds United. He'd probably be playing for like Spurs or Real Madrid or something.
We'll talk about the fee and the signing in a minute or two, but we'll start at the end if you like, and the fact that he did the statement to say goodbye, and he's touched on the fact that it's a bit raw at the minute, and I suppose from his perspective, it has hurt a little bit going from being a guy who was included in the squad last season to basically he was bombed out. There's no two ways about it, and has been paid off. Sounds like he was just put in the bomb squad. They always have one, don't they, that doesn't train with the main squad, or trains with the youth, and these people are often pushed out into a different changing room, that kind of thing. So to go from being a senior professional to that, I suppose, is going to hurt on a personal level. But he did touch in that farewell statement on the frustrations, his own frustrations, and you can only assume that means injuries and missed chances.
And he will have, part of the upset of missing out this season and being released is that he will have thought, because he's always backed himself at every stage pretty much. He'll have thought, well, he's still early 30s. This is another chance at the Premier League. Maybe I get a second go at this. Maybe I can make it work for a couple more years. So his chance of getting a Premier League move, though, now you'd have to say probably almost non-existent, unless the team is kind of fairly desperate, I suppose.
Burnley knows the club.
Well,
had a great time there, didn't he? Absolutely loved it. And then when Burnley get Deitch back later this year, they can be reunited.
Well, there is genuinely, maybe, I don't know, a logistical reason for it, because he's got a young family and all that. Might not want to move them. Burnley's probably commutable from where they live, so you might not rule that out. These things will be factored in, won't you? Because is he going to want to up sticks and move everybody when they're probably settled? Kids, be it in nursery, school, home, whatever it might be.
I'm not sure Burnley has many happy memories for him, though.
No.
I'm convinced he's going to go to Europe. Just somewhere around him. You see Jamie Vardy's gone to Italy.
Yeah.
Andy Carroll went to France a few years ago. Why not?
Right. Yeah, I suppose you can keep the house, can't you? And you can go rent somewhere abroad for a couple of years, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. But that's the problem for him. But I just wondered where he ends up. But wherever he does end up, I do wish him well. And I think that's one thing you can say. You don't always feel that way about some of the strikers that you named, like Hasselbank, and the manner of his departure when he was, he got nicknamed Piggy Bank in the square ball, I remember, and there were cartoons drawn of him and all that kind of thing, because he was after a huge pay rise, as we understand it. Leeds couldn't or wouldn't give it to him under Peter Ridsdale, which is ironic when you look back on it, and also didn't want to sell him to the British market, didn't want to sell him to Chelsea, so sold him to Atletico Madrid, and then he made the move back to Chelsea afterwards. But there were songs, I remember, when he revisited Elland Road, like One Greedy Bastard and things like that. Great striker. And we probably look back on him slightly more fondly now with the passage of time, because he was a good player for us. It's just, but the manner of leaving wasn't nice, was it?
No. I mean, I suppose in that regard, the fact, if you feel like a player's leaving to do something better, it always hurts a bit more. If you feel like they're getting a move to further their career, whereas I guess this is, well, it's on the club's terms, isn't it? Because clearly Bamford didn't want to go, so I guess he avoids that. And if he goes on to do very well after this point, it's the club who has to face the stick for it, because they're like, well, you let him go, and there he is scoring 17 goals for Burnley again. He was the man all along.
Was it time for him to go though?
Yeah, I think personally it was probably overdue, just because, which isn't Bamford's fault, but we just didn't replace him. From the year after he scores all those goals, Bielsa gets sacked. He's injured from then on, more or less, for very, very long stretches, and we're always relying on him coming back, and he was never fit enough.
You can see parallels a little bit with what's happened this summer, and where we are talking before the window shuts. But you look at, like, Leeds have brought in Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Metcher, and suddenly off the back of the Newcastle game, Joel Piroux probably finds himself in third place for that striker spot. And you want to supplement your good players or your top performers with the ones who are on a par with that or better, I suppose, don't you? And that's what you're getting at. Like, we didn't replace him. We didn't ever give him proper competition, I don't think.
No, probably not. And I will say, as much as I say, I feel like it's the right time for him to go, and he should maybe have been moved on sooner. Definitely wish him well. Like, he's not a dick.
Yeah.
which sometimes players leave, and you're like when Steve Morrison left, for example, another elite striker everyone justifiably hated. But when he left, I was like thrilled. I was like, thank God I've seen the back of that guy. Sick of seeing him play football, sick of his moping face, like his entitlement that he seemed to think he was doing well when he was never scoring any goals for us. Like, everything about him I just hated. And that's, there's absolutely no bad feeling with Bamford, I don't think.
Yeah. You wonder, though, if he'd left after relegation in 2023, would people feel the same way about him?
It'd depend where he went, I suppose, wouldn't it? If it felt like he'd jumped ship to do something better, or if we'd offloaded him for the wages, it becomes a different spin, doesn't it?
Because what I'm getting at is Morrison was there in a time of misery and was a miserable person, whereas Bamford was not a miserable person and he played a big role in getting Leeds promoted the first time. He played a cameo role in getting us promoted the second time, and left kind of on a high almost.
Yeah,
I just think it's a bit weird the way that it's been done. Evidently Farke didn't have him in his plans, so I don't know why that wasn't communicated to him sooner. But maybe Farke expected Bamford to kind of get the hint at the end of last season, rather than find himself a new club, rather than we had to be told in the middle of July. I don't really know.
I would dare say the club have been probably trying to offload him for a couple of years because of his wages. He has been the top earner, hasn't he? We understand it.
Yeah, or if he's not the top earner, he must be right up there. As your number 9 generally is.
Yeah. But the contract he was given was off the back of scoring 17 Premier League goals, so it was, at the time, it kind of made sense. But yeah, I suspect he falls into the category like when we came down the first time around, when people like Gary Kelly and Lucas Radeby, we essentially couldn't offload them because there were
high wages, injury record,
not necessarily that motivated to move. And so the last years of them are not remembered as fondly, probably, because it's a bit like, oh yeah, I remember them being kind of stuck here, and it felt a bit of an unhappy marriage for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to a certain extent divorce Bamford the person with Bamford the footballer a little bit, because I really like Patrick Bamford. Like, as more time's gone on, he doesn't strike me as like an archetypal footballer. He strikes me as quite thoughtful, like a really decent guy, maybe, quite principled, whatever it might be, whatever it is that you latch onto in terms of his personality. But I quite like that about him, that he's not just a cookie cutter dickhead,
Yeah. I feel like he's got a career in football TV if he wants it, and he might actually be quite good rather than the usual types. You don't want to go on about certain names, but it feels like he enjoys football to an extent, and he does know what he's talking about. And he's also played under lots of different managers and different groups of players. So I've seen him on, was he on LUTV a couple of times?
I'm not sure, actually. I've never seen him on it.
He did. I remember he did the co-commentary when he's injured in the 5-4 against Birmingham and just lost his mind when the 5th goal went in. Which, yeah, I like that.
So he actually started his career as he was at Forest, wasn't he, as a youth, and then he ended up going into the Chelsea sort of landfill system, if you like, where they just harvest young players. Thankfully, that's all been nipped in the bud, and they don't do that anymore. And he was pushed out on loan to MK Dons. He went to Derby and then Borough. There's a bit of a sketchy failed move at Palace and Norwich and Burnley, as you mentioned.
Yeah, his Premier League moves didn't really work out for him because he had a few goes at it, didn't he? 'Cause he'd done pretty well at lower levels when he was kind of building himself up through MK Dons, Derby, Middlesbrough. But then, the Premier League moves never quite worked for him. So then he ends up back at Borough
on loan.
Yeah, no, permanently, because they then sign him from Victor Alter signs him at Middlesbrough, doesn't he?
Yeah,
and then he scores a hat trick against Leeds.
Yep,
which obviously sticks in your mind because you've got a tendency to view the performance against your team as like the benchmark, haven't you, of footballers? Like Harvey Barnes, I always think he's a brilliant player.
Yeah, yeah,
because he's just had a run of scoring goals against us, but then he doesn't always get in the Newcastle team, so maybe he's not.
It's on YouTube, isn't it, that game? And I'm fairly sure does he play that game coming in off the right, or is it off the left? But he's not the number 9, is he? He's like the wide forward.
Yeah, he's a winger. I can't remember who their centre forward would have been at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember that game particularly because it snowed and I was supposed to fly from Leeds back to Belfast for the weekend. And I would have missed the match and the flight got cancelled. I was like, oh, at least I get to sit and watch the Leeds match. Just like,
lucky you.
I wish I was just sitting on the runway at Leeds Bradford in the snow.
So we signed him £7 million and he signed a 4-year deal. And you forget now with all the mad Premier League money that got booted around in the wake of the promotion and all that. That was the biggest fee we'd paid for anybody since, well, a long time. Was it Robbie Fowler was the previous biggest fee? So it was a really significant investment at that time when we were trying to get promoted. So he came in. There was summer of Bielsa.
Yep. He's in that.
Marquee signing. Also, Bamford did start up front that day.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And Adama Traore was on the right and Stuart Downing on the left.
Is that right? I'd always had picture of him cutting in from wide, though. Unless maybe he'd been shunted out there when changes started to happen. But
maybe
anyway.
That's just the way that he played in that game. But yeah, I thought of him as more of a winger or a wide forward at that point than a traditional number 9. He also wore number 11, which might have confused us.
That'll have done it, won't it? So yeah, a big money signing. And I remember being. How did you feel about it when he came in? I was kind of moderately pleased, probably with that hat trick in mind.
Yeah, I think that's entirely what I'll have gone. I'll go, he's scored 3 against us. Yeah, he's really good. But he was one of those players who had been touted for ages as being like, a potential Premier League player and may even end up back at Chelsea. And I know it's rare for any of their loan players to actually go on and play for him, but like one of them who might have had a chance of getting in the team there. Obviously, never makes an appearance for him, I don't think. But I seemed like a good signing and he'd been Championship Player of the Year, I think, hadn't he? Or
a couple of years before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, at some point. So it all kind of made sense. And we had Kemar Roof was playing up front under Bielsa. I know he'd been kind of moved around onto the wings and stuff, hadn't he, in the past, Roof, but he was playing up front as well. And Roof and Bamford seemed like two really, really strong options.
Yeah, Roof was playing well, wasn't he? He was Roof and actually kept him out of the side at the start, I think.
Well, Bielsa did that, didn't he? But he'd buy people and you had to kind of earn your spot. But then he injured his knee. 7th of September. I was checking on the dates, and then returns with a goal. Then he's injured again, and we fall into that pattern of his first season where every time he comes back and he starts to look good, he seems to get injured.
Yeah, I think as well because his full debut is the League Cup against Bolton, and he scores in that, and then he sets up. It's a really nice equaliser at Swansea for Pablo, where it's ball down the left, and he kind of dummies, and the defender just goes one way. He goes past him, ball into the box. So we'd seen a glimpse of him, and then he gets that injury. So you sort of feel like you've been robbed because you've already seen him and he looked good. And you're just desperately waiting for him to come back from the injury.
It was often the case, wasn't it, that season that it was either one or the other was fit, him or Roof. Yeah. And whenever he came back in and started to show fit, but it felt very delicately balanced in that Pat would just be on the fringes of return as Kemar Roof got injured. And you were just hoping that we had enough to see us through. And we actually, in the end, we did just about. But I
don't know if you're remembering that season correctly, Dan.
I always felt like but did we ever do without both of them?
No, I know what you mean, but we didn't. It wasn't enough, though, was it?
No, it wasn't enough to get us over the line in the end. But I meant in terms of like one of them always being available.
Yeah.
Just even if it felt very precarious at that time.
Yeah.
But he did score some important goals in that season that pushed us towards the playoffs. I mean, but I suppose you can only ever be left with the question: what if he'd have been fit and Roof had been fit, and we just had that little bit extra to maybe push us over the line?
Yeah. And when he comes back because Roof plays in the first leg of the playoffs and is then injured, Bamford comes in for the second leg. and has a terrible game, and is booked for diving as well, because by this point we've had the Villa incident where it all kicked off, and he got was El Ghazi sent off for pretending he'd been hit in the face when his hand doesn't even go within about 2 feet of him in the end. And that, I don't think people were particularly pleased with that, and rightly so, because it was kind of it was embarrassing, and it is undoubtedly cheating, like what he did.
Yeah. So. The weird thing about that as well is he fakes being hit, so then he's still standing, but he's holding his face, and then El Ghazi kind of bumps into him, and then he goes over. And I always wondered, if he doesn't actually go down in that moment, does the linesman spot it? And does he get sent off?
Right.
And maybe he gets away with simulation, but
yeah, and
I don't know.
And I think the yellow he gets for diving against Derby, I don't think actually is a dive.
What's a penalty?
I think, yeah. And without the Villa thing and people having in their mind that Bamford is a diver, maybe we get a penalty in that game, and maybe that changes the outcome there. But it's hard to say, isn't it? But yeah, he the way that season ends as well, like his final goal of the season is in that Easter defeat against Wigan.
Moving on.
So not great memories from the end of that season.
Yeah.
Was it him or was it Hernandez who missed the penalty that day? Was it Hernandez?
It was Hernandez, I think. Yeah.
Bad day.
We'll come on to the missed penalties.
Yes, and then there's the promotion season is the one after this, and I can still remember very clearly that Bristol City game. Did we watch that at the Brudenell?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, something just felt really, really right. And he started the season and he scored that day in that 3-1 win. It was the charcoal and pink kit, wasn't it? It was very sunny in Bristol. I remember just thinking, we're really good. This could be the year. Yeah,
it was nice to see us play well after the way the previous season had finished, but it was to reset and be like, oh no, this still looks good. We can go up again. We can have another go at this under Bielsa.
Yeah, and he beefed up over the summer as well, because I remember, was it Guiseley, maybe the first friendly back, or York, and there was the picture of Bamford, and you're like, that's not the sort of spindly centre forward that we had last summer or last season. Like, he'd been in the gym over the summer, and you could tell like he was a bit more of a bully at that point. I remember beating West Brom 1-0 at Elland Road, and he didn't score, but he gave their quite physical defence a really awful night of it.
But this season is when Eddie Nketiah has arrived as well, and Bamford starts with the goal, but then he's missing chances. Weirdly, I found a YouTube video of someone had compiled some misses from the early part of the season, some against Forest and some against Derby, games when we dropped points early on, and people are looking at it going, well, if Bamford puts in one of these many chances, then we're just going to run away with this league. And Nketiah is generally just coming off the bench, but he himself is scoring some important goals as well. Like Nketiah comes to the bench to score a winner against Brentford. He comes off the bench at Barnsley and puts us in the lead with 5 minutes to go. We score a second, gets a late equaliser at Preston.
I was going to say, is this not possibly the genesis of the whole us looking better with Bamford in the side because of the work that he did? And you now look back on how Bielsa played his football, that his work rate and pressing and closing down was far more suited to the Bielsa system than someone like Nketiah, who was just a stone cold killer, number 9 striker, didn't really do much else, but knew where the back of the net was. And it's like, if you could combine the two almost, then you'd have a perfect striker. And as Nketiah's playing, and it was the West Brom away game around Christmas, New Year, wasn't it? I think it was on the TV where Bamford came on and scored. Was it like with his back or something like that? I think
it was an own goal, actually.
Yeah, but did he replace Nketiah at half time? And that's when Nketiah went back, and everybody was like, this ain't working with him up front. And then Bamford came in and we looked better in what was a difficult game.
Yeah, again, like if you combined Bamford's work and Nketiah's finishing, you have a striker.
Yeah.
You have Harry Kane. Basically, you don't have a striker who plays for Leeds. So you just have to learn to deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that goal that was given as an own goal, you've got that, and you've got the winner at Luton before that was given as an own goal. It was like the 91st minute.
Was that where the sweary child was that? The away at Luton.
It might have been, yeah.
The double wanker signs, I think. Was that when we played in the pale blue kit? Yeah.
I just remember the Luton I follow commentator for the first goal going, Ref, that is a foul. You're just like, shut up.
So yeah, a real mixture of kind of frustration, but
anyway,
presence.
Nketiah's gone. So then people want the new shiny thing to play.
Who was?
Jean-Kevin.
Yeah.
He never did.
I mean, that's a separate show in itself, but let's sum it up in one word, which is possibly misstep.
Very much so, yeah. But Bamford continues to frustrate people through this season. Like he's always in the team, and people wanted Nketiah, then they didn't. Then they wanted Jean-Kevin Augustin, then they didn't. And then we have a bad run, which we turn around. It's obviously the Luke Ayling looking sad at Forest is kind of the peak of the crumble that we're having at that point. But then at that point, Tyler Roberts comes on and scores some goals against Hull, and people are like, just play Tyler Roberts.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. He just sticks with Bamford, does Bielsa. And you know what? It works. And we have he scores the final goal as we go into lockdown that we all get to actually celebrate. So that's like the last goal we celebrate Elland Road for years, as it turns out. It's his goal against Huddersfield. And then we return after lockdown, and Pat's in the team, and he's playing pretty well.
Yeah, the Fulham game that they win after, that comes off the back of losing at Cardiff. That Fulham game was massive at the time, and they'd score early through Bamford. Did he go off injured that day?
It's quite possible.
He was off at half time, I think.
Yeah, but he gets another goal away at Blackburn, then he gets one when we demolished Stoke as well. And from that point on, we were running away with it, weren't we, in the lockdown, apart from right at the end when we had a bit of a stutter.
Yeah, I suppose this period, the lockdown period, and we'll get onto the behind closed doors thing as well, because that's, lockdown Premier League Pat was absolutely on smokes, I believe, as the YouTube generation might well say. TikTok generation. Anyway, this is the best of Pat, isn't it? That run in, and then the behind closed doors season, the moment when it all clicked for him.
But in that summer, I was probably not alone in thinking we need better than Bamford in the Premier League, and we sign Rodrigo, and you go, yeah, good upgrade. Bamford drops to the bench. This guy's going to play up front. I can see where this works.
And yeah, did that in your opinion maybe spur him on to get the best out of him because he had that competition?
Maybe so. Well, I suppose he'd had the competition. Yeah, arguably, maybe not from Jean-Kevin Augustin, but he'd had the competition from Nketiah, I suppose, and he was missing chances then. So It's hard to know really what clicked for him. But yeah, he starts the season up front, scores within half an hour against Liverpool, and just never really has a bad moment that season.
No, I think Bamford, he always needed competition, and he played well when he had competition, which is probably true of any striker. But he always scored in bursts. So like in the promotion season, he scores 4 and 4, and then he doesn't score for 10 games. Then he scores 6 and 8, and then he doesn't score for 12 games, and then he scores a handful between that Huddersfield game and the end of that COVID season. And it's the same in the Premier League season is obviously his best because it's probably his most consistent. Yeah. But he's never really injured.
No, and he never, as you say about the streaks, he never goes, there's one patch of 5 games where he doesn't score. But other than that, he keeps it ticking along all season. Yeah. But playing well, scoring a goal every couple of games, with the odd, 2 and 3 thrown in there as well.
I just seen on the notes, scores the winner, a penalty in brackets at home to Burnley. Villa, absolutely the apex of what Bamford did, I think. Yeah, it was glorious. I mean, we've chatted about that in recent days, haven't we? I just saying that was a great bit of striking that I think I will probably, when you say Pat Bamford and you think of the best things, it'll be that for me in my mind. Watching
it back and the goal at Leicester as well, which was brilliant. It's like watching a different guy to the Championship Bamford, where he seemed to not be able to make clean contact with the ball, and he'd panic as chances came to him and stuff. All of a sudden, it just transformed himself in this season.
Yeah, maybe it was the bright lights. I often remember that game. Was Struijk playing defensive midfield, and he gets taken off early because he's been booked. And that Villa game, it felt like Leeds were heading to get beat. And the second half, he's just unbelievable. That's why I wore this shirt.
Yeah, nice. Which for the audio listener is the blue and green Adidas away shirt.
The Yeboah reboot.
Indeed, spot up.
Yeah, good shirt that. Wish I'd bought one.
The last Leeds shirt I bought.
Yeah,
I got that with my voucher. Because it was during the lockdown for season ticket holders. They basically said, "Can we keep your money, but we'll give you all UTV and a £50 voucher or something." And that's what I bought with mine.
I think I put my money into the academy. So Archie Gray, you're welcome.
See, I didn't do that. I was like, "No, I'm having something. You'll just spend this on something." I want to see exactly where it's going.
So he scored the final goal of the season, penalty versus West Brom. Was that when crowds were back in? We had the 8,000, I'm going to say.
Yeah, it was limited numbers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pablo and Berardi's farewells. And
it's interesting getting to these summers and you see how the difference between like how Bamford's left this summer. He's gone from being a senior member of the squad, albeit featuring in fits and starts towards the end, to being completely bombed out. And it's that kind of that marker point, isn't it? It's the bookend of a summer. And again, you're imploring the club there to go out and build on what it's already got. So even if it's not a case of completely replacing Bamford, it's a case of giving him that level of competition. But I suppose you've still got Rodrigo there at that point. Bamford's still there. Are they going to move with anything up front, particularly with the contracts and all that? When was the contract given? It was this season?
It was kind of in the start of the following season when he actually signs his new deal. So within kind of weeks, really, the season restarts. He's got a 5-year deal, plays for England, and then that's really where it starts to go wrong.
It's the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
That's St James's Park when he gets injured.
A game that, again, it was almost the beginning of that season falling apart as well, because that was a game we should have won. We had the chances to, but we don't win it. Bamford gets injured. I think and Dan James should both score in that game as well. There were just quite a few chances that were missed. And then, Bamford's out until the 5th of December when he comes on against Brentford, as we'll all remember. Glorious return of sort of a weird off his thigh kind of finish off from a corner. Wheels away to celebrate.
Is that one where he went batshit mental?
Yeah. So, and then he does his hamstring and doesn't play again until the 10th of March.
Which at that point, that becomes the punchline. And we've gone from this situation 12 months before where he was untouchable. And then at this point, the narrative, I suppose, has swung more towards the frustration with his injuries and to get injured, celebrating and equalise. I mean, come on. So Leeds.
Yeah, I don't think it helps, though, that Rodrigo very clearly doesn't fit the system. He's a good goal scorer, but he isn't the striker that Leeds signed or needed that summer. Yeah, whenever they signed him, and they should have signed Ollie Watkins, but whatever. And then Bamford being injured, I think that just highlights how much of an issue that is.
Because Bielsa needed him, but then Bielsa's gone.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll thrive under Marsh. He didn't thrive under Marsh. So he comes back and then goes off injured again. This is the plantar problems, isn't it? When he goes off as a little cry on the bench.
Marsh gets a lot of criticism for that because there was a lot of thinking that maybe he wasn't fit to start. And sort of forced him back into the team. But you can't force anyone back into the team. They're footballers, they want to play. But
having since had plantar fasciitis since then, it's so annoying. It really is one of the most annoying because you can't do anything about it really because you're on your feet all the time. You've got to either you can't. It's like you can put your foot in a cast and then or wear like one of those moon boots or whatever, and because you get muscle wastage in your legs and you're having to build it all back up again. So said the podiatrist that I saw. Anyway, it's like you kind of just got to very slowly nurse it back to health because I wasn't really aware of what it was until Pat got this injury, and then I read up on it, and then I ended up getting it. Sympathy injury in many ways, but it's well annoying because like you say, you're on your feet all the time, even just in little bursts. You can't not use your foot, can you?
So that's the end of his season. So having gone 17 goals, absolutely brilliant. He gets 2 goals that season, barely plays, just is constantly injured, and we just about by some weird miracle, partly in that Wolves game was probably the one that more or less did it.
Yeah.
Just about stay up. But don't matter because we've got Joffrey. Joffrey looks really good.
Yeah.
We've got we've got the
best young striker in England.
Best young striker, England's number 9. Still got Spain's number 9, although I think he's been dropped by this point.
That was as Kinnear said in here for anybody wondering why we're saying that. That's what he said, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then they never play Joffrey again, basically, is the gist of it.
Yeah. What happened in the relegation season then, apart from us getting relegated, but in terms of Pat?
Adductor problems.
Yeah. So that was second game of the season?
Yeah.
Happened?
He starts that season as captain as well. He's captain the first 2 games.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Completely missed that. So Cooper must be out at that point,
yeah,
I'm guessing.
I think so.
Interesting.
He wears the armband against Wolves.
But yeah, he's not so much part of the team that season. He's kind of, that's the season as a whole is just a mess. It starts with Marsh, it ends with Allardyce. He's injured all the time. The team's chopping and changing. The whole thing is just a complete mess. You can't probably pin it on Bamford, though you you can look at the run-in, and it's probably when people most lost the plot with him, because he misses that huge chance against Leicester where corner basically drops him at the far post. He just needs to tap it in. There's not a goalkeeper in the net. If he gets anything on it, he could put his shin on it, his thigh,
sadly,
his foot.
That is the one thing I said earlier on about that shirt, Chris, that Villa hat-trick probably being the apex of it. And this felt like the nadir. That's the one I remember as the negative Pat Bamford.
And that would have been at the time. I know you can look at that season and go, maybe we're always going to go down. But if he puts that chance in, that puts us 4 points clear. As it is, we're still in the relegation zone. We then have a chance to go 2 up against Newcastle at home. Bamford takes the penalty, misses. We end up drawing, and that leaves us in 18th, point behind Everton. So the chances to escape that season are kind of blown by Bamford, and there's not really any avoiding it. You could argue we'd go on and draw with Newcastle anyway, because 2 up with the team we had, with the level of steel we had in that team.
Yeah,
it's quite likely we don't hold on anyway.
But the week after that, you go 1-0 up, where Rodrigo scores a screamer from a long throw, and still end up getting torn apart by West Ham anyway. So I felt like the writing was on the wall, but the 2 sort of most memorable moments from that month are the Bamford miss and the Bamford miss penalty, unfortunately.
Yeah, and he does get some goal. He gets 4 goals that season, but his last couple of goals of the season come when the 5-1 defeat against Palace and the 4-1 defeat down at Bournemouth. So they almost don't count those goals.
Yeah, there's no redemption in it, is there?
Well, they were meaningless.
Well, the Palace goal, you could say, shouldn't be meaningless, because wasn't to give Leeds the lead that day. And
going well, going in half-time.
Go into half-time, concede a silly goal, and then just completely capitulate.
Yeah, mad that game. And then relegation results at the end of the season. And I suppose there's that sense of wanting to clear the decks when you go down, and you want to get your high earners off the books. And I suppose there's a growing sentiment or pressure around that when you go down. We've signed Pirro at this point. We've got Jorginho comes into the side, and they were the main men really for the 23-24 season, which was Farke's first. And he starts the season injured again, which, gives more weight to the idea of him being perceived as a burden, I suppose.
Yeah. But then he comes back and he scores the best goal of his career, and then has a nice little run, and he's in a team, and the team are winning, crucially. So once again, we're in a situation of going, well, I don't even know if Bamford's our best striker, but we do play better with him in the team. So leave him in, I suppose. And he has a good run.
He's the best all-round forward the team has, because they were bringing him on in a lot of games. He came on and missed a penalty against Stoke. And it was clear that Bamford was never an impact sub, but Farke was using him as an impact sub at the start of that season, because he didn't really have any other option but to, other than Pirro. So people are getting annoyed and more annoyed at him. But then, that run between New Year's Day and the Sheffield Wednesday game, he scores 8 goals and 7 goals in 9 or 10 games. So,
and as we were saying about you kind of write off the goals in the massive defeats. A lot of them are big goals as well. They're opening goals, they're winning goals, they're like equalisers. They're the stuff that means something for us.
Yeah. His final goal for us then is the 4-3 win at Middlesbrough, which was chaotic in April. But then knee injury sees him miss the end of the season, including the playoffs.
Every time he got going,
he
just couldn't help it.
So basically, whenever he was fit, he scored goals for the most part.
Yeah,
for the most part.
And so into the last season, and he's got another pre-season. He's got injury issues there again. Matteo Joseph is now coming through into the ascendancy. Pirro's probably in front of him at this point, so he's falling down the pecking order. He started in that 3-0 League Cup defeat against Borough, and then he becomes even more marginalised in terms of minutes used. It's all kind of subs in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, and doesn't do generally an awful lot until quite late in the season, when once again we're getting to the position of maybe we need to start playing Pat Bamford here, because I know Farke doesn't do it, but there's definitely talk amongst the fans like, might be better off just sticking Pat in for these.
What does that say about what Bamford brings to the side? I suppose
partly
is it about when the pressure's been cranked up though, and he's a man who is quite happy to shoulder that sort of pressure.
I think partly it's just people want the other thing, don't they?
Right.
If Bamford was in the team, people would be going, just play Pirro.
It was also the Pirro scored against Sheffield United and then didn't score again until the day Leeds got promoted.
Yeah.
So throughout that time, he's not scoring goals, and whenever he doesn't score goals, he doesn't really impact games.
Yeah. Unfortunate to have that one ruled out against Middlesbrough as well, because as we know, it was onside. But it would have been a nice kind of little denouement at the end, wouldn't it?
But yeah, he ends the season with no goals, which is a shame. It would have been nice for him to have one. I mean, the fairy tale would have been for him to, come, because he's on the pitch when we are champions. But if he could have come on and scored that goal or something, or even if he could have got one in when we were smashing teams at home in the last games, I think there was a real will for him to get on and score, wasn't there? Because people just wanted to almost roll it back and remember the better times.
Yeah, a sort of a nice sign off though, by being there to see it, to be part of those celebrations, and he gets to play guitar with the Kaiser Chiefs on stage at their gig at Temple Newsome. So there is a nice, I suppose, as he touched on in his farewell statement, a nice memory there to bookend his time at Leeds, even if the bit that followed at the start of this season has not been glorious for him.
A nice memory for him and for everyone who was there, I think, to be like, that was our Pat Bamford doing his thing, and it's a sort of a shame that when you look back at stuff like that, and from preparing for this, watching back some of the goals and stuff, it kind of sad it ended for him as it did on the pitch. But I think overall we'll remember him fondly with some caveats.
£7 million though, Chris. Let's assume we did end up paying up towards the 9 million with add-ons because we went up with Bamford in the team. Even still, by today's standards, the fees that are knocking around in football just generally, and it's the top end fees have gone mad in this window, and it's almost happening in the Championship to a certain extent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Looks like great value, I think, really.
Yeah, 100%. Like we paid around 12 million for Joe Pirro, and he scored 19 goals as Leeds got promoted last season. So you have to say that's worth it. So 7 to 9 million for a guy who, while he frustrated people, he got Leeds promoted and then went and scored 17 as they stayed up the year after. Stayed up very comfortably, obviously, but without those 17 goals, who knows what would have happened. 100% worth it. Like if you're scoring 5 goals in the Premier League as a striker for 7 million, you probably have people justifying going, well, it worked in the end, didn't it?
Yeah, the final years you can say weren't good value, but you can say it wasn't his fault as well. He just got injured. Same way as you could look at, Michael Bridges as for Leeds, brilliant in that season for us, but then spent a few years just constantly crocked. But can't really blame him for it. It's just Bamford he always felt on the verge of a comeback, didn't he, Bamford? Whereas when Bridges was out, it was more like, no, he's out for a solid 9 months or whatever. It was like it was very, very long stretches. With Bamford, it tended to be like, I'll be back in a few weeks.
Weeks, not months.
Yeah, and then he never quite was.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Like it happens to footballers. They get injured, and his is just very frustrating. I mean, it can't have been more frustrating for anyone other than him.
Yeah,
like that must be to sit in those treatment tables and constantly having to come back in and out and rehab. Must be serious mental drain as a footballer.
And you look at the and I think you can probably talk about this now with a bit more passage of time, that the demands placed under that squad, and you've seen how many of them suffer with injury problems under Bielsa. It was such an extreme method, like the levels of fitness he required out of them. Maybe it was just a slight bit too much for him, and the requirements have been so thin and all the rest of it, and maybe having a little bit less muscle mass, whatever it might be. There'll be reasons for it. Maybe this was just a bit too much for him and for a number of those players.
Yeah, but at the same time, got his England cap.
Yeah,
was a top Premier League striker.
So propelled them all to new heights, but maybe came at a bit of a physical cost.
If that's the cost, then that's the cost.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're not getting there. There's probably like a 99% chance that they're not. Liam Cooper was never playing in the Premier League. Bamford, maybe at some point, more than likely not. Who knows?
He'd had a few goes, hadn't he? And it had not worked for him until Bielsa did it with him. So yeah.
And they all bought in and did what it took.
And he was a core member of it. He mentioned his friends in his farewell statement, like the sort of friends for life he's made in that sort of senior group of like Dallas, Cooper, and so on. So he's definitely a part of that, I think, and that's one of the reasons why he's going to be remembered fondly as a Leeds player, I think, because he was a part of that group.
Mm-hmm. Football's all about how it makes you feel, like, because you don't get any money back for your investment, so it has to be about how it makes you feel. And if Bamford frustrated at times, he gave us lots and lots of good memories, some in the stadium, some out of the stadium. So,
and the lockdown season, it's frustrating because we weren't there, but at the same time, it was generally speaking quite a miserable existence for everyone because you couldn't do much. So having Pat Bamford having a really good season and getting to watch us, play well in the Premier League and win games, it was needed. I feel like.
Yeah.
Imagine like the Marsh, Scoobs, Gracia, Allardyce relegation season in lockdown. God, it'd have been a grim existence. Whereas actually we got to go get promoted and with Pat Bamford, and we got to see him doing really well in the Premier League. And it's a shame we weren't there for it, but it still happened and we got to enjoy it.
Yeah. And we got to enjoy Pat Bamford, I suppose, plugged and unplugged, because he was unplugged on Greek Street, wasn't he, when he went out of the promotion celebrations and then did the Kaiser Chiefs, as I mentioned before. So I'd go see him in concert.
Is that right?
What about you? Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Should we maybe, is that the next step post-football?
Get him booked in for the Brood now.
Let's get it done. So I think cheers, Pat, is the overall message. Like, I know, we had frustrations with him over the many years that he was here. And I remember like voicing him on the show, feeling like, and it was exactly as you've said, it's always about the other, isn't it? When he was in the team of frustrating us and missing chances, he was like, just take him out of the limelight so we're not talking about it anymore. Put the other guy in, and then the other guy came in, and then he came with frustrations, whether it was Nketiah or whoever it might have been. I put Pat back in then, and yeah, it's just funny how football does that to you, I suppose.
But yeah, the general vibe of it is, it was a fun time.
Yeah, it was, and cheers, Pat. Let's hope we can. I think we will all look back on it fondly in years to come.
All of the Bielsa team that won promotion, even the people who were in some ways peripheral to it, like Barry Douglas or someone.
Yeah,
I still think of him well. I just think, it was good. I enjoyed him that season. I can't remember anything he did, but it was part of it, wasn't it?
I do like the idea that maybe when, I suppose, most of the Bielsa team are going to have retired in another, let's say, 5 years' time or something like that, that they could get back together and have some sort of dinner at Elland Road, and all the players that were in that team would be there in attendance. And
Bielsa wouldn't attend.
No, of course he wouldn't.
We've not even
send a video message.
We've not even touched upon one of the main Bamford moments, which wasn't even in a game. It was just him scoring at training and Bielsa hugging him.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, what a warm, fuzzy moment that was for everyone.
Considering how distant Bielsa was with the players, like he would never form an emotional attachment. So to do that must have just been a moment of sheer perfection.
Yeah. And the same again in the promotion scenes in the East Stand, and he's hugging Calvin Phillips and he hugs Bamford as well, and because it feels like Bamford was his project as much as Calvin Phillips was as well.
Yeah, very much so. So thank you, Pat, and let's continue to look back on it fondly. But I do like the idea of that dinner. There are speeches, all the players are there, all the kids are there, growing families and all that sort of stuff. I think they'd have a really nice time, and it'd be nice to. I don't think we'd get invited, would we?
You probably would. Back in the director's box.
So yeah, cheers, Pat. Thank you, and good luck. We will. I think we'll follow the next few years while he's still in football with interest, and wish him well.
If he signs for Scum, obviously we'll have to delete this episode.
Absolutely, 100%. Prick. No, good luck, Pat. Cheers.
The Square Ball Podcast.